So, morning. On today's session, we're going to be talking about how to create a high cash flowing property business and the benefits and also the pitfalls of creating one as well. So, not only going to give you the good, but I'm also definitely going to be giving you the bad so that you can determine whether you think that this is something for you. Now, before we do that, let's just quickly get through what we're going to be covering on this session. So, on this session, I'm going to be showing you how to get started in property with really no experience. So you don't really need experience in the strategies that I'm going to be showing you today. You don't actually need money if you do this correctly. And I'm going to be giving you examples of properties that I've taken on with literally none of my own money. So if you like the thought of that, just give me a quick, if you're on the Zoom, just give me a quick hello, give me a quick thumbs up, let me know that you're in the room. That'd be phenomenal. And then we're going to be talking about how to build a property business from simply controlling properties. So today's not really about acquiring properties by buying properties, it's about controlling properties. And then finally, how to negotiate the best deals, whether this be by going direct to vendor, whether it be going with an agent, and we're going to be looking at the pros and cons for both. I'm also going to be showing you what the market looks like and more importantly, what I consider the market to look like and why I think this is a phenomenal opportunity. But before we do that, I want to just give you a quick rundown as to who I am, who is Arsh Ellahi, and why should you be here today listening to me? Well, first and foremost, I'm a property investor. I've been investing in property over 24 years now. And within that, I've seen lots of highs, lots of lows, been through the recessions. More importantly, I've built up quite a vast portfolio that's got well in excess of 1,000 tenants. So you can say that I walk the walk. You can see from my Insta that I actually go through on a day-to-day basis some of the properties. I actually still sometimes deal with tenants issues. So I'm very much hands-on. As well as that, I feature in two property publications, which I write in every month, one being YPN Property Network, Your Property Network, and the second one being the HMO magazine. Now, in lockdown, first lockdown, do you remember that when we had all this free time? I released a podcast called The Property Rebel. We released it and it went straight into the top 10. It's called The Property Rebel. We release a new episode every Tuesday at 6 a.m. And it's literally 15 minutes of property knowledge. So feel free to go and check that out. Finally, one of probably my proudest accolades is that 4 years ago, I released an app, a mobile application called the Property Investor app. Now, what this does is I consider it to be like the right move, but for property deals. So we've got lots of different opportunities on there. We've got below market value deals, rent to rent deals, lease option deals, service accommodation deals. And these aren't deals that you're going to find anywhere else. These are deals that are specifically for the Property Investor app. So if you haven't already heard about it, if you haven't already seen it, or if you're not already a member, I'd like you to do two things, please. I'd like you to either go to the website, which is propertyinvestораpp.co.uk, or if you've got a smartphone, go to the App Store, type in Property Investor and download it from there. So let's get moving straight on. So what are your goals for 2024? We always start with goal session. So because I'm assuming that we've all set ourselves some goals because we want to be in the best shape that we can. We want to be in the best possible business that we can, whether that be and then create the best possible cash flow that we can. So from your point of view, we're looking at it from a point of view is that are you trying to create cash flow? Are you trying to build assets? So when we're talking about build assets, are you looking to try and acquire assets? Are you looking to actually secure your family's future? You're looking to escape the rat race. You're looking to make property pay for luxuries such as holidays. Nothing wrong with that. You know, having nice things, there's nothing wrong with that. But you're going to make sure that you've built the business for it so it's sustainable. Are you looking to help your kids get onto the property ladder? Again, another great reason. And as a father myself, I can completely agree with that. We want to make sure that the business that we build today is also helping our future generations. And then finally, creating a pension pot. What does that pension pot look like? And when we talk about pension pots and when we talk about timelines, what does timelines look like? Because, you know, have you created yourself your plan for 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years down the line? What, you know, we all talk about what financial freedom looks like to us. And we probably all write down that I want to get to £5,000 a month. And that's phenomenal because that's great. You've created yourself the goal. Now, I really want to know is what's the vehicle that's going to be able to get you there? Because all very well having the vision, having the goal, but how are we going to get there? What strategies are we going to employ to get there? Because that for me is key. Making sure that you've got a sustainable and also a business model that's going to help you get there is the one thing that you need to know. So write down in the comments or in the Q&A box just a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What's your property experience? But more importantly, why are you here today? What's really urged you on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. to get here today? So I'd really love to see those comments. Now, whilst you do that, I'm going to just state the obvious that last few years has been quite difficult. When we say quite difficult, because we've come across all kinds of stuff. Well, if we go back, the best part of 3 or 4 years, you can see that we've lived through some unprecedented times. So let's talk about COVID. No one knew that was going to happen. We never knew what the effects was, but we lived through it. If you're here today, we've lived through it. And I'd like to congratulate you for that. Now, on top of that, as soon as we came out of that, we've come across lots of other little obstacles. So we've come across the mortgage rates that have increased. We've come across energy rates, which have increased. Food and petrol have increased. Imports, exports, both have increased. Taxes and wages have stagnated. Wages have not increased in line with inflation. And also creating additional income. We need to create an additional income stream to assist, because let's just imagine that previously our outgoings was £1,000 a month, but as a result of the new interest rates, and if you're one of the lucky ones to have fixed your interest rate many years ago, phenomenal, fantastic, well done. But for the large majority where you're on a standard variable rate, let's face it, your interest, let's just imagine that your mortgage was £500 a month. It's probably gone up to the best part of £800 or £900 a month. So what have you done in your business or in your financial planning to actually look at how you're going to service that gap? Because we've now got a gap of £400 a month. On top of that, that's just the mortgage rate. Then we've got to factor in the energy costs. Then we've got to factor in the cost of living. That's all increased. So as a result, the average household, their bills have increased by the best part of £800 a month, which is equivalent very close to £10,000 a year. When you look at that, it really is an interesting statistic that although all the costs have gone up, our income hasn't necessarily gone up unless you're in the property world, unless you're actually looking to build new property business and strategies which have allowed you to do that. So I'm going to put this out there because, at the start of the year, you're probably going to have lots of goals and ambitions, and you're going to have people that are saying, Arsh, your goals are too big. Your goals are unachievable. How are you going to do that? Believe it or not, it is possible. Just because they think it's not possible doesn't necessarily mean it is not possible. Don't let anyone turn your sky into a ceiling. Now think about that. The sky. How large is the sky? And the ceiling. Everyone's got a ceiling, but we're not concentrating on the ceiling. We want to reach for the stars. We want to reach for the sky. The opportunities are endless if you allow yourself to think that way. Does that make sense? Now think about that for a second. What have you done and what have you talked yourself out of? And the reason why I'm doing this at the start of the session is to get your mind in the right place. What have you talked yourself out of over the last year? What did you think? Well, you know what, to be fair, I wish I could have done that. I wish I should have done that. And think of all the opportunities that you've missed. Now, my goals for this year, I'm going to share them with you because it's great to share goals, is to create one of the largest networks of property sources out there. So make sure that we become the equivalent to Rightmove for property investment deals. So make sure the Property Investor app continues to grow year on year. I want to create a successful tribe of property sources in the UK who are also doing multiple deals, making in excess of £5,000 a month by following my proven system. And I want to make sure that the UK, the Property Investor app is the UK's marketplace which people go and look for property investment deals. So there's my goals, and I want to try and hit over 1,000 deals a year, which is equivalent, it's a big target. Best part of 80 properties a month, which is equivalent to the best part of 20 properties a week, is a big target. Now, let's talk about the opportunity. Now, this topic, well, this webinar specifically is about working with agents. And the reason why I'm doing it specifically with working with agents is because we all kind of know about doing direct to vendor campaigns. And, the reason why I'm not a big fan of working with direct to vendor is just purely because, now I'm going to give some scenarios here that you as a property investor, you're going to go out now and do direct to vendor campaign. And there's nothing wrong with direct to vendor campaign. My only gripe with direct to vendor campaigns is that they take time, they take money, and there's no real guaranteed success rate. And give me an example. If I was to write a letter or push a leaflet through Kerry's door, now Kerry's a lady which is on the webinar, what's the chance of Kerry actually responding back to me? Because I don't know whether that letter or that leaflet has hit the right hand or has fallen into the right hand. So what happens if my letter falls in between all the different leaflets that come through our doors? And we all get them. So for argument's sake, we're getting leaflets from Domino's, Pizza Hut, all these different companies that are pushing junk mail through our letterbox. And what happens if my letter falls in between there? What happens if my leaflet falls in between there? What's the chance of Kerry actually reading my leaflet and actually taking an interest in what I've got to say? And more importantly, what's the chances, or when is Kerry going to respond back to me? Is she going to respond back to me today? Is she going to respond back to me tomorrow? Is she going to respond back to me next month, next year, in the couple of years? So what's my success rate on that? You've got to put out a lot of leaflets, you've got to put out a lot of letters to generate a level of return. And so for me, although I do direct to vendor strategies, more so I like to do direct to agent strategies. And the reason why I do that is because I know that the stock is there. I know that there's a business on the other side of the phone. If I want to pick up the phone to them and I can speak to someone and perhaps negotiate a deal there and then. And that's the key thing for me. I want to make sure that we're in a position where we can deliver opportunities. Does that make sense so far? Just give me a quick yes or no. And can you understand my rationale behind the two different strategies? So we've talked about direct to vendor, we've talked about direct to agent. So do you understand the rationale as to why I think agents is a great opportunity? More importantly, when you look in an estate agent's window, how many opportunities do they have at any one point? And if we compare that against a vendor, how many properties do they own? So yes, we may get a better deal by going direct to vendor, but how many letters do we have to put out? How many people do we have to approach for that? Whereas with an agent, we know that they've got 30 or 40 different properties. All we have to do is make sure that we create win-wins all round. And we're going to be showing you how to do that. Now, did you know that in the UK alone, there's the best part of 50,000 estate agents? And on Rightmove alone, there's the best part of 1 million properties listed for sale. Now, I'm going to talk to you about the stats for this. Now, before we do that, if you're watching on Insta, I am going to close the live. So I really hope that you've enjoyed that. If you want to join this session, you've got to join the Zoom call. And by doing that, you've got to click on one of the previous posts, check the link, and I look forward to seeing you there. So guys on the Zoom, really hope that you enjoyed the session. Just give me let me know that you're enjoying the session, and more importantly, you're still with me, and also that you understand what we've just discussed. So let's get moving on. So we've talked about estate agents. Just get rid of this. And you can see that I'm live because I'm trying to multitask at the same time. And You know what they say about men and multitasking. But anyway, let's get moving on. So, estate agents, for me, is a great opportunity. And the reason why I say that is because they can fill my funnel with deals every month for as many years as I want it to happen. So let's have a look at the estate agency business model, because it's really important for you to understand this. Now, with the estate agent, really, there's only two people involved. You've got the vendor, and this is the person that needs help selling their property. They will search for the most active agents in the area and ask for valuations. And put yourself in the vendor's shoes. So let's just imagine that now Ryan is a homeowner. He's looking to sell his property. Now, Ryan wants to sell his property quite quickly. So what Ryan's going to be doing is that he's going to be speaking to 3 or 4 different agents, and off the back of that, he's going to pick the agent which he thinks is going to be the most successful at selling his property. He's going to be the person that he thinks has got a great rapport with, and he thinks that this person will actually sell it quickly. Now, the owner will really only sell, the owner will only be charged a commission on the sale of their property. There are other companies out there, I've got to put this out there, that do charge a slight upfront fee, but the large majority, 9%, 90% of them, all charge the commission when they've sold the property. Now, let's have a look at this from the agent's point of view, because the agent has to work really hard. They have to go out to win the business, and they then have to list the property on Rightmove. Now, when an agent goes out to meet Ryan, can they guarantee to Ryan success? Can they guarantee success to Ryan? Can they guarantee that they're going to sell the property? Personally, I would say no. And the reason why I say that is because, let's face it, no one can guarantee success. If that was the case, there would not be a single property for sale in the whole of the UK, because all the properties would be sold, because they would have guaranteed success. Now, with that in mind, the agent only earns commission upon a successful sale. In the meanwhile, they'll have to incur costs of marketing and also the added pressure of the time frame of approximately 12 weeks, because when the agent has gone out to Ryan, they probably gave him Ryan would have gave them a window of exclusivity of approximately 12 weeks, which is equivalent to 3 months, which is kind of the standard as to what estate agencies request in their sole agency agreement. So you've got to remember that agents are under pressure. Agents are under pressure because they need to sell that property. They've got 12 weeks to sell the property. And if you think about it here, the model is very simple. The vendor approaches the agent. The agent then has to put it on places like Rightmove, Zoopla on the market, and then they have to find a purchaser. Now, what happens if they don't sell the property? Well, first of all, the vendor, let's just use Ryan as the example here. He's going to be frustrated because Ryan may have found his new future property. He may be thinking, oh, great, I've got this agent, he seems really active, but he's not, on the back of that, I'm going to start looking for my next house, or I'm going to start making my next plans. So whether I'm upscaling, whether I'm downscaling, whether, and we could put Ryan in all kinds of difficult scenarios where he's got financial hardship, whether he's going through a marital breakdown, relationship breakdown, all these things that go around in the world right now, creating anxiety, creating pressure. And I'm sure lots of you on the webinar will kind of resonate with this, because let's face it, there's lots of pressures out there in the world right now. Ryan will be frustrated because he's thinking, well, I gave it to the agent. The agent said, yes, don't worry, we'll sell this, no problem, within 12 weeks. 12 weeks later, the agent calls and says, sorry, Ryan, we have not really managed to get the level of success that we were thinking. And as a result, should we consider perhaps reducing the price? Have you ever come across that in an agent, where the agent, when the property hasn't sold, they said, well, why don't we reduce it slightly? Why don't we reduce it by 5,000? Why don't we reduce it by 10,000? And we can see examples of this on the platforms like Rightmove and Zoopla, because it happens daily. More importantly, the longer that this property is listed with that agent, the more motivated that vendor becomes. And ultimately, what will happen is that that vendor will then start to look for another agent to represent them. Because let's face it, Ryan's not going to stick with a underperforming agent forever. That doesn't happen. Now, from an agent's point of view, let's have a look at it. Look, what does this look like from as a business point of view? They've not sold it, which means that, remember, they only make their commission when they sell it. There's no commission being made, which means that they've invested time in viewings and admin. They've invested money in marketing, whether they put some adverts, whether they've printed some particulars off, whatever it may be. They've listed it on Rightmove, they've listed it on the portals, they've taken calls, they've gone out, they've got floor plans drawn up, they've had photos done. This all costs money. This all costs time. Now, more importantly, the agent has got the added pressure of the fear of losing the listing the longer that the property doesn't sell. And is also the fear of another local agent coming in. Because can you imagine not the shame, but agents don't like not selling a property. And then all of a sudden, let's just imagine that we've got Connells. I always use Connells, I don't know why, but Connells have not sold the property. Now, as a result, 12 weeks have passed. Ryan has then started approaching other agents. Let's just imagine that they've now bought Bairstow Eaves into the picture. Now, Bairstow Eaves, all of a sudden, put it on. They've managed to find a buyer within the space of a couple of weeks. What does that look like? You know, from the local market point of view, if you were Connells, what would that look like to you? Would you be slightly embarrassed by that? Just in the comment section or in the Q&A session, just give me a quick yes or no. Would you be embarrassed by the fact that another agent has come in on your patch and also sold the property that you had on your books? Because believe it or not, this is what's happening. Now, I'm going to give you an example. I did this live this morning. I thought, well, how can I really add value to the guys that are on this session today? And I'm going to give you an example of all the unsold properties and all the unhappy vendors and unhappy agents. I just did a quick search in Hull this morning. And what I found is that there are approximately 20 agents within the area. Each agent has approximately 30 properties, which means that the approximate number of properties available within this city alone is approximately 600. And remember, I just searched for one property strategy, and this is just on one platform. So have a quick watch. So this was literally just one platform in one city. I just chose Hull, and I don't know why I chose Hull. It's just the way that it happened. So in that, you could see all the properties there. So all those properties are owned by someone. When you look at the psychology, and I kind of look at the psychology behind it. I just picked Hull. I just picked a property type of, let's say, HMO, because let's face it, that's what property investors are after. Property investors are after assets which are going to be generating a good level of income from the outset, so that they're not having to deal with voids and issues from the outset. So I just chose one city, and that was the results. Now, I could do that. And remember, I did that from one city. I did that from one platform. If you think of all the other platforms that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, how many properties are there? And the reason why I'm telling you this is because when we look at this, we've got to look at it from an opportunity as to what can this do for you and your property business over the next 12 months, over the next 24 months, over the next 1, 5, and 10 years. Because remember, these businesses are all going to need your assistance over the next 1, 5, and 10 years. So I did a bit of research, and in the UK, did you know that we've got 12 core cities? We've got 24 other cities. We've got 119 large towns. We've got 270 medium towns. We've got 674 small towns and 116 villages and small communities. The reason why I'm telling you this is just to show you the scale of this business if you start to get the grasp of the opportunity. Does that make sense? Have any light bulb moments started to flicker on as we go through this presentation. Give me a quick hi and yes if it sounds interesting. Now, what is a deal? Because this is the one thing that all property investors, everyone wants to ask. Everyone calls me and says, "Arsh, I'm a sourcer. What is a property investor after?" Because let's face it, we've got quite a few of you on this session today. And let's just use it. We've got Colin, we've got Rabina, we've got Kerry, we've got Kevin, we've got Ryan, we've got Cherie, we've got all lots of different people. But they've all got their own different criteria of what they're after. So Kerry may be after a below market value deal. Now, Ryan may be after a renovation property where he can add value and then try and refinance. Colin may be after something that's already income producing and producing a good return on investment. Now, the reason why I mention this is because don't become and don't fall into the trap of what I did 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I set up a company called We Buy Properties Fast. And we did what we said on the tin. We bought properties fast. But I went out there with a one strategy approach. And the one strategy approach was that I was going to just buy properties which were 25% below market value. So if the house was worth 100,000, my offers would be within the region of 70,000. Does that sound familiar? Is everyone understand that? If it was worth 100, I was offering 70. And believe it or not, we were advertising in all the different publications all around the West Midlands. So we were advertising in newspapers, we were advertising in magazines, we were advertising at bus stops, we were advertising at train stations, we were advertising, believe it or not, football grounds, we were advertising supermarkets. It was phenomenal. Our marketing budget every month was approximately £100,000, which was crazy. But the amount of leads it generated was phenomenal. Now, I'm not going to suggest that it wasn't, because every day we had so many leads coming in, calling us, we've got to sell our property, we've got to sell our property. That's great. So what we did is I made a decision that in order to avoid wasting my time, I literally would try and sound them out on the phone and say, guys, if it's worth 100, I'm going to be offering you, circa around 70. Does that sound about right now? Because if it's not, let's not waste any time, because I'm not coming out to you otherwise. Now, if I knew then what I knew now, I would have gone out to every single one of those calls. And the reason why I would have done that is purely because, everyone's got a different motivation. Everyone's got a different strategy. So we now know about, obviously, strategies like rent to rent, lease options, because let's just imagine that. Let's just, again, sorry, Ryan, I'm picking on you. But if the house was worth £100,000 and they've got a mortgage outstanding at 90,000, there's no way that they can sell me their property at £70,000. But I could have structured that in a slightly different manner. I could have structured it so, yes, they could have still walked away from the property. Yes, we could have still done a deal with them. But when I think of all the deals that, we're talking hundreds, thousands of deals or property opportunities that I've walked away from because I didn't know what I was meant to know. I was naive to the fact that I should have only been offering below market value opportunities. I thought, well, yeah, if it's worth 100, I'm going to offer 70. I'm going to buy it for 70. I'm going to refinance based on 75% below, loan to value. I'm going to get all my money back out. I'm going to do it again. And yes, I bought a lot of properties. I still bought a lot of properties. But I can't help but feel, how many opportunities did I miss? How many opportunities did I walk away from? How many great deals were there sat on the table that because I didn't know about it, I walked away from it? Does that make sense? Does that resonate with anyone there? So, as a property, as a deal sourcer, as a deal trader, this is how you can help agents. This is how you can help vendors. Now, going back to the scenario where the agent hasn't sold the property. So, we're not going to talk about the vendor. We're going to talk about the agent because, like I said, there's a bigger opportunity by working with the agent. You can actually work with the agent and say to them, guys, okay, we understand that you've not sold it. Don't worry, don't panic, because we could probably work with you and we could probably look at the property in a slightly different angle. And off the back of that, we're then going to try and create a cash flow model surrounding what the property is or what the property could become. And off the back of that, we're then going to try and matchmake it to a property investor, and we're going to try and sell it to them. Now, the property investor is the person that's going to be buying it. They need to really identify, does this meet their criteria? And as a result, if it does, they're going to be buying the property directly from you, and they're going to be paying you a fee for the service. Now, we need to identify, before we do that, a couple of things. With the vendor, what is their pain and what is their motivation? Because remember what we talked about. When we go back to where I was 20 years ago, I would literally say, worth 100, I'm buying it for 70. Now, I want to identify, okay, so we think it's worth 100. Do you mind if I ask how much is outstanding on your mortgage? Or do you mind if I ask what's the reason for sale? And the reason why I ask this is because then I can start to get to the real pain and the motivation. So we don't know if they're, and I'm going to give you another example, because I believe that money is not the main motivation when you come in to sell a property. How many of you guys try to sell a property? How many of you guys try to even sell a car? And a great example being We Buy Any Car. I know there are other car companies out there, but We Buy Any Car. When you've looked at a new car and you're looking to do a part exchange, when you go to a dealer, they don't necessarily offer you the best deal. And they do say that companies like We Buy Any Car and Motorway are probably better at offering you a better price for it, and they can offer you the cash for it or the money in the bank immediately, which then allows you to go on and buy your new car. Has anyone ever done that? Now, when We Buy Any Car, when you go on their website, straight away they offer you, let's say, £10,000 for your car. But then when you take it to them, they start identifying a few scratches here, a few curbed alloys here, and then the offer then goes down to 9,000. Now, the reason why I say that, is because you've already come to terms with the fact that you're selling the car and the car's pretty much in your own mind sold, you actually don't mind selling it. So, because you think that in actual fact, I'm going to be walking away with an offer today. I'm going to be walking away with the money today. So technically speaking, money is not the main motivator. It may be about time. Now, if you're going through a divorce, you're going through a separation, and the one thing that's holding you together is the property, believe it or not, money won't be your main motivator. The motivator will be about, how can I get away from this idiot, which is my partner? How can I get away from this idiot and we can go our separate ways? And I've seen it time and time and time again where they're prepared to accept an offer subject to time, speed, and all the things that go along with it. Does that make sense to all you guys here? So don't just assume that money is the main motivator, and don't assume that you're going to come across all the opportunities which are like going through repossession, because it's not realistic. So understanding what the vendor's pain and motivation is great, because that will allow you to then put together a sustainable offer, or an offer which may be creative and to your advantage. Now, you as a sourcer, you can add value to this property. So even when you're dealing with an agent, you can add value to the property. So for argument's sake, we can start to look at a property, and an agent may have listed a property as a 3-bedroom terraced house, but what they've not identified is that it's possibly local to a university, and that house could possibly become a HMO. Now, obviously, there's a fair few steps that you've got to go through to make sure and identify that. You might need to look at local legislation. You might need to look at local market conditions to make sure that that is achievable. But as a result of that, you've now created a property with a different cash flow model. And if you present it in the correct way to an investor with a potential cash flow model, there's no reason why they wouldn't buy it off you. And as a result, the investor would pay you a fee. Now, before we go on to that, the reason why this model works really, really well is because, going back to this example here. Oh, sorry, I've gone back here. If the agent doesn't sell a property, how much commission do they make? Remember what they said? They make 0. So is it in the best interest of the agent to make a sale? I would say absolutely 100% yes. But so when it comes to deal sourcing, what I always say to my agents is that, why don't you allow us to present this property to our investors? You will still make your money from the seller as you would normally, which means that you'll still sell the property, tick. The vendor will have still sold their property, tick. And if my investor buys it, I will make my fee off the buyer. So the way that I see it, two separate transactions, the estate agent and the vendor, the deal sourcer and the buyer. I will look after the buyer. The estate agent will look after the seller, and everyone wins. Does that make sense? Okay, so Kerry says, how do we find out the vendor's motivations when you're going through the estate agent? Okay, because believe it or not, you can actually find out it just all comes down to the questions that you're asking. Because again, if the property's been on the market the best part of 3 months, Kerry, what you need to do is you need to ask that question to the agent. So just go and say, guys, okay, do you mind if I ask, the property's not been on the market, the property's been on the market for 3 months, hasn't sold. Do you mind if I ask why it hasn't sold? And then they start telling you that pretty much they think it might be slightly overvalued, etc., etc. And then off the back of that, say, well, do you mind if I ask what's the vendor's motivation? Because they will know that. They will know that at some point. And then if need be, you can arrange a viewing if you think it's right to go and meet the vendors to negotiate that. So it is possible and it does happen. So let's keep moving on. So here's what not to say to an agent. And I see this every day. And it does kind of grind my gears. I don't mind saying that. It's because we see some people go in and make ridiculous offers. Take me back 20 years. It's worth 100. I'm going to offer you 70. And I made these offers to agents. And I said to them, guys, okay, if you want a quick offer, I can complete. And this is where we talk about false promises, false timeframes. And I could say, well, guys, if you want me to make an offer, I can offer £70,000, which is a ridiculous offer because they knew that the vendor was never going to sell that. And more importantly, think about this from a business point of view. From a business point of view, the agent, yes, they want to sell the property, but they make a commission based on the percentage of the sold value. So if the property is worth £100,000, and selling it for £100,000 and their fee is 2% of the £100,000, that means that their commission is going to be £2,000. Now, but if you're making an offer at £70,000 and their commission is 2%, they're going to be making 2% of £70,000, which is £1,400, which again is, yes, it's still commission, but it's a low commission in comparison. So are they going to take your offer seriously? I very much doubt it. They'll probably put your offer in the bin as soon as you made it. Now, a second mistake is making offers on behalf of others. Now, this is really important as a deal sourcer. Never do it. Because, give me an example. Just imagine Kerry is my investor. I'm the deal sourcer. Kerry's my investor. Now, if I put an offer on a property, and let's just imagine that property was £100,000 and I've offered 90 on the hope that Kerry is going to offer 90. What happens? If I make an offer on 90, the vendor accepts 90, the vendor starts rubbing their hands. Yes, we're on the move, we're on the move, we're off to Australia. And then all of a sudden now, Kerry comes in and says, well, Arsh, I don't think it's worth 90. I want to try my hand at 80. Now, Kerry comes in with 80. Now, all of a sudden, the estate agent's thinking, well, hang on. You made me an offer of 90. We've had the offer accepted at 90. Where's the 80 come from? And all of a sudden, you've lost all credibility, which means that you've then gave them false promise, false hope. Now, the next thing is don't give them false promises. Don't tell them that you're going to 100% guarantee to sell their property because you can't. What you can do is you can say that you're going to put it out to some of your investors and see who's going to come back to see if it's of interest. Remember, the one thing that I say to all agents is that I'm not the buyer. I've got some people that may be the buyer, but I need to present it to them. So I don't give them any false promises. They know exactly when they were dealing with me, they know exactly what they're getting. And I lay it all out on the table. This is who I am. This is what I can do. And this, I'm not going to make you an offer. I'd rather the investor make you the offer directly. And also, I don't want to give them false timeframes. So I don't want to turn around and say, we're going to complete within 7 days. We're going to complete within 30 days. because again, that might be highly unrealistic. And I don't want to turn around and say that I'm going to be a cash buyer, I'm going to complete, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to have the surveys done. I don't want to do any of that. And believe it or not, this is what investors do time and time, every day of the week. And this is what estate agents really hate. And sometimes this is why estate agents won't really even entertain a conversation. Have you ever had a conversation with an agent and you kind of get the feeling that they're really only half listening just to get you off the phone? It happens, guys. Believe it or not, it definitely happens. But off the back of that, this is what happens. And I also see people create viewings for properties that, yes, if you're going to create viewing, you've got to either let them know what your intention is, or you've got to create the viewing for the person that actually looking to purchase the property. So only create viewings because, again, this is time, admin, and effort on behalf of the agent. If you're not going to follow through, this is really going to grind their gears. So will agents work with you? Now, I can say categorically tell you that they will, because remember, they work on commission. They need to sell property. And I get emails like this every day from agents all over the country saying, I've got HMOs for sale, I've got this property for sale, this property we've not been able to sell. Can you help us? Now, I help sell their properties and make it easy work for them. They still make exactly the same commission. It gives them another avenue to market their properties. And I make money from property I simply control, and it's a win-win. Remember, vendor wins, they've sold the property. Estate agent wins, they've made commission from a sale. We win because we've sold a property that we've not had to spend any money on marketing on. And also, we've not really had to do a great deal of work. And finally, the investor wins because they've bought a property that they would not have known about without my efforts. Now, why I really like deal sourcing, I've give you the whole model of what deal sourcing is all about there, and I've give you a model and an outline as to how working with agents can really build your property pipeline. But more importantly, I've given you an idea of what the market looks like for property investment opportunities. Now, I'm going to give you the positives of what comes with deal sourcing and deal packaging. Remember, you're not buying the property, so you're not dealing with tenants. I'm talking to you as a property owner that's got over 1,000 tenants. I can tell you that it is a grind. It is a grind, and people will call you with tenant issues, maintenance issues, having to evict people, bad debt, people avoiding you. But with deal sourcing, because you're not buying it, you're not having to deal with tenants, you're not having to deal with maintenance, because you're not actually owning the property. You're not tying up any money, and you can deal with any property, any town, in any city, or believe it or not, any country. And it can be start and stopped when you require, and can be done anywhere around the world. So you don't even need to be based in the UK. All you need is a mobile phone and a laptop. Really is as simple as that. And I call it the risk-free property investing. You don't own anything, so there technically is nothing that can go wrong. Remember, going back to my example of Connells, when they come out to your property, can they guarantee a success of selling your property? No, they can't. They can't guarantee you success, because if that was the case, they would be selling every property and there'd be no properties for sale in the UK. Now, with deal sourcing, what I really like is the fact that you can actually earn a full-time income from part-time hours. Remember, each deal on average generates a fee of around £3,000. So if we worked on the basis, looked at all the figures we looked at all the stats of how many properties are being offered. If you work on the basis that there's 800,000 properties for sale in the UK, 1% of that is 1% is 8,000 properties. No one's ever going to do 8,000 properties. I'm not going to do 8,000 properties. You won't do 8,000 properties in your lifetime. But based on that, think of the opportunity. So we know that there's lots out there. We know that there's lots of stock out there. More importantly, the stock is consistently rotating. So property gets sold, new stock comes on the market. Because remember, estate agents need new stock every day to replenish the stock that they've sold. It's like a shop. When you go into a shop, after they've sold a fridge full of milk, will that fridge remain empty? Or will the shopkeeper restock it with fresh new milk? No one wants to see empty shelves. Estate agents do not want to see an empty shop window. Does that make sense? So this is why I'm saying that the opportunity is almost like endless. The opportunities keep coming month on month on month on month. And remember, we only looked at one strategy. There are multiple different strategies to actually continuously keep pumping deals into your pipeline. So remember, the fee on average for each deal is around 3,000 plus VAT if you're VAT registered. You don't need experience because deal sourcing is an unregulated industry, which means that anyone can do it. And you don't need, all you need is a bit of time. It doesn't need a lot of time. You need the ability to do a little bit of research and make some phone calls. And it's an industry where no or very little upfront capital is required and can be done from anywhere, anytime. And think about those pockets of £3,000 that you're going to be generating. How many of those, how many deals that do you need to replace your income right now? So if you're on a £30,000 salary, you need 10 of those deals a month. 10 of those deals a year to cover you, which is equivalent to one deal a month. Everyone should be able to do one deal a month. And off the back of that, think of all the time that you've got with your friends, your family, and all the things that this freedom brings you. Now, with deal sourcing, I always say that no need to be a one-trick pony. Going back to my example of where I was 20 years ago, where I was only offering a 25% below market value, don't be a one-trick pony. Speak to all agents, speak to all owners, understand what the pain and what the motivation is. And off the back of that, look at what is the best strategy for this property. What can we do to this property? How can we make it work? And how will an investor find it feasible? Now, I'm going to show you some of my best deals. Now, some of these are direct to vendor, some of these direct to agent. So this was a direct to vendor deal. I went to meet a vendor because I was looking to rent a property. Now, when I went to look at the property, the owner actually said to me, Arsh, I'm thinking about selling this building. Do you know anyone that would buy it? Because I happened to mention that I was involved in property. I actually ended up buying the property at £500,000. It's a block of 26 offices in the heart of Wolverhampton. Now, I've actually had this valued. Sorry, I've done a bit of a typo there. The end value of this property was actually £1.2 million. I've actually spent a bit of money on refurbing it and bringing it up to standard. But believe it or not, I bought it for 500. I've actually exited it or refinanced based on a £1.2 million valuation. And I've increased the income from £40,000 per year to £110,000 a year. Now, there's a lot more of a story behind this deal. I could spend the best part of the day going through this, why the vendor wanted to do this deal, the motivation behind the vendor, but ultimately we got the deal done. And I would not have done this deal if I went through a estate agent. So I'm going to be contradicting myself because direct to vendor and direct to agent deals are both valid strategies, but it's whether you want to do one deal or whether you want to be doing multiple deals. So here's another direct to vendor deal. So this lady called me and she goes, she's actually based in New York. And she called me, she goes, Arsh, I've got this property in Manchester. I've been leasing it out to a housing association. So some of these companies that have been doing a supported living. Off the back of that, they've rented it off me for 2 years. They've trashed the property. They've handed it back to me. And now I don't know what to do with it. I'm based on the other side of the world. I don't know who to trust anymore. I want to sell it. So I spoke to her and said, well, how about if you gave it to a reputable company that was going to give it, on a 5-year deal, would you be interested? She goes, yes. So I went to have a look at the property myself because it was of interest, because I thought it's very close to Manchester city centre. And off the back of that, I offered her a 5-year rent-to-rent deal, but I only said I'd only take it if she was going to put the money in to do the work. Now, the reason why I offered that is because the property needed the best part of £100,000 worth of work spending on it. And I thought for a 5-year deal, it's not worth me taking that on. There's no point me putting £100,000 into someone else's property for a 5-year deal. If it was a 20 or 25-year deal, yes, but not on a 5-year deal. Anyway, we agreed over a month of negotiations. We agreed that she was going to spend the money. I was going to do the work. We were going to have 3 months rent free once we did the work, so that that compensated me for my time. And we converted it into a 10-bed HMO studio. It was already a HMO, but we had to reconvert it because it's such a bad state. We now utilize it as service accommodation, and it produces a cash flow of approximately £6,000 a month. And I've used none of my own money to do this deal. But I would never have got this deal through estate agents. So again, contradicting what I'm saying, but both ways work. Now, here's an example of a deal come through estate agent. Now, it was offered on Rightmove at £180,000. Now, it went on the market. Lots of people went and viewed it. Lots of investors around the Midlands went and viewed it. And then we're getting offers around £130,000, £140,000. And the property was derelict. It was completely almost like back to bare brick, a shell, but it was previously 4 flats. Now, I said to them, I'll tell you what, I'm going to offer you £180,000. And they were kind of thrown out by my offer of £180,000 because, believe it or not, they thought all the offers that they were getting, £130,000 or £140,000, was going to be the best that they were going to get. I said, I'm going to offer £180,000 based on me getting planning permission to convert the property into 6 apartments. But I'm going to need approximately 3 months to get the planning permission through. So for the sake of 3 months, they were going to generate an additional £40,000. And guess what? They agreed to it. I went off then and got planning permission for 6 flats. I spent approximately £150,000 in converting the property, reconverting the property. So it now owes me approximately £330,000, but I then had it revalued based on £600,000, based on 6 one-bedroom flats. It now generates an income of £40,000 per year, provides a cash flow of around £1,900 a month. So again, this is a great deal done with an agent, and had the agent in the middle. Everyone won. The estate agent won. They won because they sold the vendor sold their property. They sold it for full market value. The agent won because they sold the property at full market value, which meant that they received commission based on full market value. I won because I managed to take control of the property. I managed to increase value on the property, and then I managed to purchase and then refinance. Now, here's my best deal of 2023, and this is direct to agents. It's a bit of a secret at the moment because we're just tying up all the last bits. But I found a property through an agent that hadn't sold. This was going back to March, April in 2023. So I watched the property. I watched it not sell. I kept tracking it. And then eventually, I think around June, July time, I literally called the agent saying, guys, is it worth me having a meeting with you guys and also the agent? The agent and the owner. The reason being is because I think that I can add value to this property, but more importantly, I can solve the pain of it not being sold. They said, well, let's have a chat. And so I arranged to meet the owner and the vendor within the agent's office. So all done at the agent's office so that it's fully transparent. And we negotiated a deal where he was going to, believe it or not, transfer me the property, and then he was going to lend me the full amount of £1.5 million to buy his property, which meant that I've got none of my own money in this deal. In the meanwhile, I've gone off and spent some of my money on getting planning permission to convert the property into 28 1- and 2-bedroom flats, a 20-bed hotel, and 6 commercial units and shops. And I've got an end RICS valuation for £7 million. The conversion cost is going to be around £2 million. So this is my project for 2024. So it's going to cost me best part of £3.5 million with purchase, planning, and conversion costs. So, but the end value is going to be around 7 million, and it will be generating the best part of £650,000 per annum. So I'm not saying that you've got to do deals like this. Let's stick, if you're starting out, let's stick to bread and butter stock. But the reason why I'm showing you deals like this is because it shows you that with the right mindset and with the right education, you have the ability to do deals like this. and work yourself up to deals like this, where you're going to be getting deals with none of your own money because you know what to say, how to present it, and how to value it so that you manage to get in and out. Now, with all these properties, with everything that we've discussed, you have two options when you look at these properties. Do you have the capacity to purchase the property for yourself? Or if you don't, literally just sell it to a property investor and make a fee. Either way, the plan for every property is to monetize every lead. Does that make sense? Has there been any key light bulb moments switch on for you here during this session? Give me a quick yes. Let me know what they are. Now, I'm going to tell you about an ordinary person that succeeds. So here's a young gentleman, Craig Webb. And literally, I'm not going to tell you his whole story, but he followed me for a while on YouTube and Facebook. And he literally had our consultation call. And off the back of that, I kind of told him where he was going wrong. Because he was telling me what he was doing. And I kind of said to him, there's no way that anyone's going to accept your offer based on that offering. And then off the back of that, he came on, did a bit of training with me. And literally, I asked him to come and start some training with me. And within 1 month, he completed 8 deals. Completed 8 deals, which was phenomenal. Here's some of the properties. So we've got properties in Worksop, Luton. We've got Hull, Walsall in the West Midlands, Burnley, Boston. If you notice, none of these. So Craig was actually based in the West Midlands. But there's no reason why Craig needs to only operate in the West Midlands, because he doesn't need to physically go and physically view any of these properties. Because if you're working with agents, the agents will provide you with the images, the floor plans, and everything that goes along with it. Does that make sense? Now, success is not just a destination, it's a journey. Because what you need to do is follow a proven system. Embrace the process. You need to let your dedication become the driving force behind your triumph. In the realm of sales, consistency and a well-executed strategy will unlock the doors to success. And the reason why I say that is because if you've got a strategy and a process to follow, there's no reason for you to succeed. The only thing that you need to do is stay committed. You need to follow the path laid out by the proven system and watch as each step propels you closer to the goals. And I always say that your success is not a matter of chance, but as a result of deliberate actions guided by a powerful system. So if someone tells you what to do and how to do it, and you literally just follow it to a T, you will then start to see the realms of the fruits of your labor start to pay off. And with every property, don't become a one-trick pony. Remember, look at every property, look at all the strategies, and appraise the best strategy for that property there and then. Now, we are going to come through a Q&A session in a second, so stay with me. Here's some of the other deals that we're doing in 2023. I could talk to you about deals, hundreds of deals that we've done in 2023. But don't take my word for it. Go and check out the Property Investor app. We've got all the app on there. The one thing I will say is that no transaction will ever be the same. So you have to look at every property and work out what's best for the agent, the owner, the vendor, whoever it may be, and create a win-win scenario. And I always say that the most strategic will be the most successful. And these are all a mixture of below market value deals, full market value deals, rent-to-rent deals, lease option deals. And some of these deals are direct to vendor, direct to agent, and also co-sourcing with other with other sources. So, like I said, more case studies all on the Property Investor app. Now, why am I telling you all this? Is because I've created a program. It's an online training program which has got 52 modules of online training. And in this training, we've got all the 6 cash flow strategies. So we look at deal trading, rent to rent, lease options, HMOs, service accommodation, commercial to residential. Now, on the training, there is 52 modules of online training covering all the different property strategies. Now, the reason why I give you all the different property strategies is so that you can look at every property and apply a strategy to it. So every time you speak to a vendor, every time you speak to an agent, you can say, okay, it's almost like ticking them off. It didn't tick this box. It didn't tick this box. So hopefully you're going to come across a strategy where it does tick the box. You can have a fortnightly live deal clinic with me and problem solving webinar with me. So literally, if you found a property and you're not 100% sure how to monetize it, literally jump on a live deal clinic with me. More importantly, I want to become a buddy in your business, which means that I'm here for you when you need me. I'm going to give you the opportunity to have daily 10-minute calls to discuss opportunities and get some support. So again, if you see a property and you can't wait for the deal clinic, you want to speak to me, you book a 10-minute call with me and we have a call to discuss the opportunity. As well as that, if you want to book a day in the office with me, you have the opportunity to come and shadow me within the day. Now, what that means is that you come and get the opportunity to come and sit opposite me. And we go through, I listen to all the calls that you make that day, and I can see what's going well, what needs a slight tweaking. And off the back of that, if I need to jump in on some calls, I'll do that with you. Now, we have 4 live or virtual meets throughout the year. So these will generally be based in Wolverhampton. And that's where we'll have keynote speakers coming to speak to you about different strategies and what they've done as well. You have access to over 400 hours worth of previous webinars and recordings and live meets. And as part of the EPT, you get to JV and sell your deals to my investor database. So I'm actually cutting out 50% of the work for you. All you need to do is speaking to these agents, and then we'll list them on the Property Investor app and we'll sell them to my investors. And the way that we work on a 50-50 split fee basis. Not only that, you have access to all my contacts. So you'll have access to my mortgage broker, solicitors, accountants, tax advisors, anyone that you need for your property business. I will have someone that I can recommend to you that you can speak directly to. And you're added into the EPT WhatsApp group. The EPT stands for Elite Property Tribe. So we start the program on the 5th of Feb, but we have started taking applications. We have started getting people enrolled on it. And on Monday, the first week being Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have webinars so that I can get you up to speed very quickly on lots of different property strategies and also getting you to start adapting your mindset so that when you come to the live event on the Friday, the 9th of February, we're going to be doing a day on the phone. So literally, I want you to be taking action on the Friday. And this is where you're going to be making calls with the agents and vendors to get your first deal kind of concluded on that day. We want to get you to a point where you're getting your first deal agreed on that day. So on the platform, have a quick watch as to all the different strategies that we've got. So these are all the strategies and all the modules that you're going to have access to. So we talk about finding below market value deals, rent to rent deals, lease option deals, and all the different ways. Now, when I say the great thing, the thing that I find is beneficial to most of the mentees is that not only do I give you the theory, but I give you the practical approach, which means that on the live webinars, on the Monday deal sessions, if there's a deal that you've got and you've got the phone number for the vendor, believe it or not, I will call them with you. So I'm not afraid to pick up the call and have that conversation with the vendor. And you will see that live on the deal clinics. So what a day on the phone consists of is a day looking for deals, a day speaking to vendors and agents, a day appraising opportunities and looking at the return on investment in the yields, looking at the hotspots so that you know where to start looking for properties, and also working in groups and fellow EPT members. Now, remember, I said that that is on Friday, the 9th of February. And these are some of the last sessions that we did. It's in Wolverhampton. So this is a day where you're going to be calling vendors, agents, and ultimately it's going to be pushing you out of your comfort zone. This is something that you've never done before. So I'm going to give you a quick example, and then we're going to go on to a Q&A session. So Jay Uday is the guy in the top right-hand corner on his phone. And he was a new EPT member. He came and joined me in my office on a shadow day. And I listened to all his calls. Now, he's very enthusiastic, but he was saying the wrong things to agents. So I literally managed to turn his, let's call it script around. And literally, we turned all the agents from saying no into agents saying yes. And within that day, we managed to successfully negotiate 2 HMO deals. And we sourced them, we packaged them, we sold them out to our investors, and we generated over £10,000 in sourcing fee. He walked away that day, with commission of £5,000 because we worked on a 50-50 split fee basis. Now, here's lots of other people that have done it. So we've got Salim, we've got Sonny, we've got Simon, we've got Will, we've got Comina, we've got Darren, who says they managed to find 8 deals that day. Now, key benefits of joining the EPT is also part of the support and also access to the network of professionals, my solicitors, accountants, tax advisors. You get access to the daily call sessions. You get access to the contracts and the templates and the spreadsheets. You've got the live fortnightly deal clinics. You've got the 4 exclusive live EPT meets. More importantly, you don't need to make the mistakes that I made and I have made throughout this journey. You follow a proven success record. So here's my promise to you. So finally, this is the last bit, and then we move on to Q&A. I will always be by your side, which means that if you need me, just call me. Not my PA, not another trainer that I've trained. You call me. And the reason why I find that's really important is because you have access to me. I will help you with your negotiations and solving problems. If you can't find any deals, believe it or not, I will actually provide you with some leads to follow up on. And you have my personal mobile number, and you'll also be added into a private WhatsApp group with all the other EPT members. The EPT platform has over 400 hours of recording, and again, we meet once a quarter with keynote speakers. So surround yourself with people who have dreams, desire, ambition. They're going to help you push for and realize your own. So just what does the EPT cost? So the cost of the workshop is £5,000. So that's for a full year of membership to the Elite Property Tribe. And you've got 2 ways of paying. You can either pay in full, which is one payment of £5,000, full access to the whole program immediately, or you have a payment plan of 12 monthly payments of £450. It is slightly more expensive, but the first 4 modules will be released immediately, and the others will be drip fed every week. But as well as that, you get access to 400 hours plus of bonus material, which means that you're never going to be short of content to watch. So if you like the thought of that, I'm just going to quickly put these links in the Q&A. And off the back of that, now is the time where you can ask any questions, and I'm going to answer all the questions that you've got. So I've just put those in the webinar, in the chat. So let's start with some of the questions. Okay. Okay, so Kevin says, I'm based in Southampton. My burning passion is to create unforgettable holiday experiences for people with disabilities. Now, that's a great goal. That's a great, great goal. My goal for this year is to purchase more houses I can convert to adapted holiday homes. Now, that's phenomenal. So, Kevin, you can do this in a number of different ways. First thing that you need to do is get yourself in front of the opportunities. And the reason why I say get yourself in front of the opportunities is because once you're in direct contact with the vendors and the agents, not only that you can find the right properties and also create the strategies that go with that. So Colin says, hi Colin, I've done some training before, but not quite made it work yet. My strategy is going to be sourcing and packaging and then later maybe flipping. With cash around £5,000 per month as quickly as possible. The moment the link I don't have is access to a property list. Now, okay, that's great because Colin, like I said, as part of the EPT, you actually become, you actually have the ability to sell your deals to my investor database of over 100,000 property investors. We've got the best part of 50,000 on the property investor app. As well as that, we've got an email database of over 50,000, which are all looking for your style of deals. So Bavin says, I'm not compliant as a deal sourcer yet, but have a strong rent-to-rent essay to sell. Can I do this without compliance, or can I source via your app? Looking to find an investor interested in this Coventry property. Now, Bavin, first things first, is that if you're selling it on places like social media, you should be compliant. More importantly, before actually sorting, you should be compliant. However, if you're selling it to my database, then we could possibly work at looking where you're utilizing our compliance. If you stay on the webinar until the end, you will see my email address, and send us over the details. Let's have a look to see what we can do with it. So Jane says, hi, if you don't view the property prior to passing the buyer, what are there any issues with regards to structural problems? The buyer may come back to you for compensation. No. Okay. So believe it or not, Jane, all the information that would have been passed to us would have been passed through to us via the agent, if it's through the agent. And off the back of that, the owner, or should I say the buyer, will have the opportunity to go and to view the property before they actually agree the purchase, so that they can pass all their own due diligence. So they'll only buy the property if they think it's right for them. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm quickly going through some of these questions. Okay, so Ryan says, as an agent, if another agent come and took one of my properties, I definitely feel deflated. Competitors have been beating you. Your competitors have beaten you. The seller will be more likely to recommend the estate agent and not the other. That's very true. So when it comes to agents, believe it or not, reputation is key. They want to see that sold board outside that property more than anything, because obviously that is a marketing tool for them. Yeah, if they can put a sold board outside a property, all of a sudden then everyone that drives past that property, everyone on that street knows that that agent is that expert in that area. Does that make sense? So I'm going to quickly, so John, if you've got a question, stick it in the Q&A box. I'm going through them as quickly as I can. So someone says, what happens if I don't find any deals? Because I'm going to say to you, don't panic. Because I'll be providing you with all the leads and deals to prepare and get ready to sell. It simply requires you to make a call and find out some key info. My team will then package the deal and sell it to my investors. New leads will be released weekly. So if you're struggling with time and you can't find leads, we can actually provide that for you. And I'm going to say that I had a call, believe it or not, from a young gentleman this week. Let's call him Andy, let's not give out his true name. And he said, oh, she goes, I spoke to you about the EPT, the best part of 18 months ago. He goes, I was keen at joining it then, but I was not 100% sure that I could do it. I said, okay, fine, great. Yeah, I understand that. I said, so 18 months later, what's changed? He goes, Arsh, nothing. He goes, I'm still in a job that I hate. And as a result, I'm now probably in a worse financial position than I was 18 months ago. He goes, I wish I'd started this sooner. So I'm going to say, don't be like Andy. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Because if Andy had done what he had done 18 months ago, he would be in a completely different scenario than what he is today. Okay, so John says, how many deals can a beginner do in a month? Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to go off and smash 50 deals a month. That's not realistic. What I am going to say is that let's focus on getting you in the first month. Remember, the way that I see it is that when you're cycling, when you've learned to cycle, when you jump on the bike, initially, when you start moving, you're going to fall off. You're going to say a few wrong things. You're going to probably annoy some of the agents, whatever it may be. But you're going to start to get back on the bike. You're going to start to cycle again. You're going to fall off again. So the first couple of months, you're going to look to try and get your first deal agreed. The reason why I say that is because this is a time where you're testing your process and, more importantly, understanding, what you can say, what you can't say. Off the back of that, month 3, month 4, month 5 onwards, that's where you should start to look to be doing a deal a month. I'm saying a deal a month because I'm being very pessimistic, but because, again, it all determines on how much time you put into it, how much effort you put into it, and as a result, this is what you should be looking to get. But I've got people that have done 50 deals in a year. I'll quickly introduce you to them. So Ashley Walker is a guy that has built a whole portfolio with none of his own money. He's put himself in direct contact with vendors and then negotiated deals where they're like almost like lease options, or actually ones where they've done vendors where they've actually gave him the money to see. We've got Bav, who has sold rent-to-rent deals. He's not actually bought any properties himself. He's just done all rent-to-rent deals. We've got Lenka. We've got Amanda, who's done multiple deals. Now we talk about the gentleman that did 50 plus deals. Let's look at Adam. Adam did a number of different deals all throughout the year. So these were below market value deals, blocks of apartments, HMOs, literally so many deals, housing association deals. These were all deals that Adam brought to the table. And as an Elite Property Tribe member, you get to use the leverage of the Property Investor app to negotiate deals with vendors and agents, which makes you almost become the go-to person in your area. Just as a recap, just before we finish off, here's what's on offer. 52 modules of online training, fortnightly deal clinics with me, and problem-solving webinars with me. So we're going to have shadow days with me all throughout the year. So you've got to book these in well in advance. We've got daily 10-minute support calls with me. We've got 4 live virtual meetups throughout the year. That's where we'll have keynote speakers, access to the platform, which has got over 400 hours of previous webinars. And you get the opportunity to JV and sell your deals to my investor database and use all my useful contacts and the EPT WhatsApp group. So just a recap on what the links look like. So agents there, Colin says, so in order to get my first deal, what should be the next step? Should I visit agents tomorrow? So yes, you could visit agents. Yes, you could speak to agents. But the first thing that you need to do, Colin, obviously, is identify what is it that you're going to be speaking, what you're going to be speaking to agents about. What is it that you're bringing to the table? What is it? How is it that you're adding value to their service? Does that make sense? I want you to be in a position where you understand what you're saying to them off the back of that and go from there. So join the EPT. Let's get you educated. Let's get you moving forward in the correct manner. I don't want you to be doing this half-heartedly. Does that make sense? If you don't build your own dream, someone will hire you to build theirs. And that's a reality. Going back to Andy, he's stuck and he thought about it for the last 18 months. He's been working for someone else and they've been building their dream. So here's the email address, Bav. So if you've got any questions about the EPT, feel free to email me directly. So it's arsh@arshellahi.com. Or I'm not in the office today, but if you want, you can email me tomorrow or call me in the office tomorrow on the office number. And the days that we have the shadow days, you'll be fine. This is where you'll be coming to my office in Wolverhampton. So there's so much support available to you. It's really difficult for you to fail. It's really difficult for you to fail because if you feel like you're having a bad day, you pick up the phone. You feel like something's not going right, you pick up the phone. Let's get you back on track and moving forward. Does that make sense? Is there any other questions, guys, before we wrap up for this morning? Let's just have a quick look. I think that kind of concludes it for today. So, as always, guys, if you've got any questions, feel free to email them in. Feel free to call us tomorrow, back on the working day, and then let's see what we can do. But I really look forward to working with you all, and I really look forward to bringing you forward into 2024 with new property strategies. And off the back of that, let's see what deals can be done and how we can progress this further for you. Take care, guys. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.